Cait, I have some shocking, horrifying news for you.
Oh my God, what happened?
I've decided I'm going to turn brunette.
Yes! I'm so excited about this development. Sorry.
So I went to my hairdresser the other day, and I was like,
yeah,
I'm really sorry to break it to you, but I've decided that I no longer want to be a redhead.
To be a redhead? I'm so excited about this development. I'm so excited. I think it's so good.
We're gonna progressively move our way there. So we went a little darker this time. We're gonna keep going. But the reason you and I've talked about this.
Yeah, we spoke about this
plenty of time, especially at the symposium. But I finally had the question in my mind that made the decision.
Okay.
And that was, if, let's just say, I were to like fall off the face of the earth and go completely off grid for like however long, and nobody were to see me except for my friends and family.
Yeah.
Let's say I had a normal job. Would I keep paying to get my hair dyed? And the answer was no.
Isn't that fascinating that like the hair color was so kind of tied to your identity as an online personality?
Yeah. And so I think, I'm making the announcement of my sabbatical this week. So this will be a couple weeks after you guys are actually listening to the podcast. But the announcement will have gone out, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, the redhead academic will be no more because we will no longer be an academic.
No.
But we will be a historian. We will be an independent scholar, just not an academic. And I was like, oh, screw it. It's just time for a full-on rebrand.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. Genuinely, I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing.
I am very excited to have more low maintenance hair, but that's my shocking news of the day. And either people are going to just be absolutely shocked when I come back online in 2027, or they will have listened to this podcast and
they won't be shocked anymore
because they'll know what's happening. They'll know the tea.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And speaking of tea, it's time to get into this week's weekly digest. All right. Cait.
Sorry.
My love.
Yes.
What are we drinking?
You know what? I downed my coffee when we got onto this call like 20 minutes ago. I'm desperate for another one, but I'm holding off because I drink too much coffee. I just drink too much coffee. It's not good. It's delicious, but it's not good. So
I mean, on the spectrum from like 0 to Christy, like where on the spectrum?
Honestly, no. I'm well median. I'm
so
well median. I'm like 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day.
Valid.
Depending. Today I'm exhausted because I presented a pub lecture last night, which I will leave the link for that in the description box below, which it was so much fun. I pub lectures are so great. But I presented a pub lecture last night. It finished up later than I anticipated, and I'm just tired. So I think it might even be like a 4-cup coffee day today, depending.
Fair enough. Girl, I wish it was a 4-cup of coffee day. My espresso machine is on the fritz, and
mine too. What is happening?
I don't know. I think you know what happened, Cait? I think we put it through their paces right before we left for the symposium, and it is now actively protesting.
Yeah, the symposium was a stressful time. Leading up to the symposium was a stressful time. The symposium itself was actually so fun.
Magic. Yeah.
Absolute magic.
I similarly kind of downed my drink. I have like the tiniest little sprinkling of matcha left. And we're drinking matcha today because I've like, it's not that I've gone off matcha. Like I love a matcha, but for some reason lately I just want my coffee. I just want a latte.
I was actually, now that you point that out, I didn't realize in Oxford that you didn't drink as much matcha as you usually do. You were much more on the lattes and the iced coffees and the iced chai. You love an iced chai.
I do love an iced chai. With a little added shot, a little dirty chai moment. Fab.
Love it.
Okay.
Ooh, I feel like one of those now. Damn.
Oh, a dirty chai.
A dirty chai, yeah.
A dirty chai. You know, the cafe around the corner from you, babe, makes a really good dirty chai.
I think that's where I need to go. After this, I need to go grocery shopping, so I might as well just pop in.
Might as well pop in. Pop in,
grab a little dirty chai.
Okay. What are we reading? What are we reading this week?
I'm really excited. I have one book that I really want to like talk about, and it's this. It's Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. Trinity lad, who wrote this
Trinity
book.
lad.
He's a Trinity lad. That wrote this book. It's really fascinating. So it's about two potters in Sicily, just off the back of the Athenian invasion of Sicily. So they're in Syracuse. It's 412 BC. And these two potters essentially decide to put on a play of Medea with the Athenian prisoners that they have. But I started listening to the audiobook, which is narrated by Ferdia. And the way he's written it, which I absolutely love, is through, like, as an Irish lad, but obviously playing playing a Sicilian. So, like, the dialogue is all, like, mate and, you know, like, very Irish colloquial language, and it's so fun. It's such an interesting sort of layered parallel between, like, things that happened in history are still so prevalent today, but the language. Can I indulge for a second and like actually read a part? Because
please pop off.
I'm absolutely obsessed. Now that you watch these Athenians and you feel like you're seeing their spirit float out through their nostrils and lips, one breath at a time, you feel like their skin withers and flakes in front of you, that if you only waited and watched one long enough, they'd disappear, and all that would be left is their teeth and a few slender branches of bone, white teeth and white bones sinking into the quarry. And maybe someday a house will be built with that very stone, your house, and you'll lie awake at night with the walls moaning, the ceilings weeping, a second sky dripping on your little head, and you'll hope it's nothing, the wind or the rain, and maybe it is, though maybe it's them Athenians twisting in your walls. These are strange thoughts, Hades thoughts, but the quarry is a strange place, and a man is not himself in here.
Oh, that is so vivid.
Right?
That is gorgeous writing.
Oh, it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. Understandably so.
I started it yesterday on the drive-in. I started the audiobook yesterday on the drive-in, and I continued reading last night. I'm going to polish this off in like 2 days. I'm absolutely obsessed with this. What else am I reading? Off the back of my 100 Years of Solitude moment, I started reading Juan Ruffalo's Pedro Páramo. Very similar in kind of like the magical realism style of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. But apparently Juan Ruffalo, the introduction here is by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but he came to him much later in life. So it's almost an insight into the way that sort of South American literature developed. And it almost seems like it's this interesting perspective of, I don't want to say precedent, but I suppose discourse, like literary discourse that has existed in a place. And Marquez says that he didn't even know Ruffalo like existed, and he only came to him later on once he'd already like published his books. And I just thought that was so fascinating, because then it's almost like there is this mythical or ethereal sense in a place that develops the literature of it, because it's so similar, but they would never have known each other.
I was thinking that about there's another writer I just encountered. I think it's called The Age of Repose.
Ooh.
I can't remember the author. It's in the office, but his writing is very kind of similar to Steinbeck.
Oh.
And actually, I haven't read as much John Williams yet. But it's so curious that obviously the time has such an important impact on the way that one writes and the topics that one approaches, but they're all writing from a very similar period.
Exactly.
But what's interesting to me is that they all also developed in slightly different regions in North America, but they're all talking about, well, Steinbeck less so, but generally speaking, like the frontier, the West.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway.
It's so interesting because it makes me think, like, what are people going to look back on? Like, I know we spoke about this in a previous podcast, that is Book Talk ruining literary culture? But it makes me think, like, what are people going to be talking about, like, our literary culture and the vibe that's coming through from our literary culture?
I think about that in terms of film right now.
Yes.
Because I watched this film the other day because my sister recommended it, or she didn't recommend it, but she was like, have you watched this film? And it was Voicemails from Isabel, and it's on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet. And
I don't know, like, movies right now just don't hit the same, like, emotional tenor.
No,
they don't hit. And like, you feel, I was thinking about editing. I was thinking about how this one scene was like constructed, and she finds out her sister has died, and this isn't a spoiler, like you're aware that her sister passes away from cystic fibrosis in her like early 20s. But it's one of those scenes that like it should have like really hit an emotional tether, but because you didn't feel that invested in the characters, you didn't really feel like you knew them, you didn't really feel like you related to them. They use the music to get that emotional
that sense.
Whereas I was thinking about the way that a scene is constructed by a director. And music should only be in addition to what is already playing out on screen. Should not be the
main. Yeah, it should not be the main thing. It's a companion piece, right?
It should be. It should be.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that by comparison to. Have you ever seen the movie My Sister's Keeper?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that film.
Best Cameron Diaz performance, in my personal opinion.
I mean, everybody did such a good job in that film.
Yes.
And like, that's a film that I cannot watch unless I'm in the right
emotional space, right? Like, yeah.
Because it does pull on the emotional tether, but because the acting and the connection between the characters like feels so genuine. But anyway, like, thinking about like what people are going to look back on, there was a scene in Voicemails from Isabel where it felt like it's just watching a TikTok video.
Oh no, I hate that so
like
much.
The guy with like, so I think they're modeling this baker after. Do you know who Cedric Grolet is?
No.
That's fine.
Should I know who Cedric Grolet is?
So Cedric Grolet is a patisserie, like a pastry chef who's very famous, and he's in Paris, and he does these like really outrageous pastries that look like fruit.
Oh yes, okay, yes, I do know of this person. Yeah.
Yes, and so people will stand outside of this patisserie in Paris and like watch him make these videos and make these incredible pastries. Obviously an insane amount of talent. There's like an offshoot of the patisserie in Paris. They've added to the Berkeley in London. But anyway, there's a character in this movie that's like very obviously modeled after Cedric Grolet.
Oh, okay.
And there's this one like slow-mo scene where he's like throwing flour and I'm like, make it stop. Please make it stop. I
hate that.
It was so gimmicky. I'm like,
so gimmicky.
I don't know. Anyway,
that is a topic for another podcast.
we can throw in throw our hands at it on another date.
on another moment. So I'll finish off really quickly because I realize I've been talking a lot. I am part of my humanist readers for July is I am reading some of Afroben's lesser known works. So I've read The Rover.
Girl, wait, hold on. I have a friend who's writing a historical fiction novel about Afroben.
Oh, amazing. So one of my first academic essays that I ever wrote was on Afroben.
I had no idea. Yeah. Fantastic.
And I mean, it's sort of, it's restoration. So it's a bit later than like my period of history. But yeah, so I'm reading some of her lesser known works, part of Humanist Readers Book Club. And then I dived into Said's Representations of the Intellectual. And I am so intrigued. It's so interesting. I'm not very far. Ooh. I've only read the first essay, but...
Okay, thought.
I have thoughts.
So I think we should do a dedicated podcast episode on Representations of the Intellectual because we're both reading it.
Yeah.
And I do think that would make a great episode.
Done. What are you reading?
Okay. So, you know all the books that I said I was going to read in Oxford?
Yes.
Well, you know this. I did bring Founding Mothers with me.
Yes.
And I was reading it, but... And it's not that I'm not enjoying it. It's just it's not the book for me at this moment in time. And I know that it's a book I am going to enjoy. I'm just not going to enjoy it right now.
So fair.
The challenge that, I've said this before, and I'll basically repeat this to death. As a historian of this period, I find it so distracting because... In a way, actually, my mind, it's not even like critiquing. It's also that my mind is like offshooting all of these ideas. I'm like, oh, I really want to go read this thing on Mercy Otis Warren. I really want to go read this thing on, Dr. Warren and what was going on with like outbreaks of disease in Boston at the time. I'm like, shut up. Like, just slow down.
Enough.
And when I'm in a space right now where my brain is just kind of occupied by dissertation, I'm like, this is not the time.
It's not the time, not the place.
To go on tangent research ideas. Like, we can write things down, but it was actually just like pinging off like too many little fireworks in my brain. I was like, this is not the time.
It's not the time.
So I was really kicking myself because in Oxford, I really just desperately wanted to read another Jilly Cooper. But I had left my copy of Rivals back in London. So I did a responsible thing. I waited, and I have been reading... I've been reading Rivals.
Amazing.
Jilly Cooper, man. I am now officially a Jilly Cooper stan.
I love it.
I'm really enjoying this. I have watched the show, so yes. I'm caught up through season 2 as far as they've broadcast. There's more episodes coming out in November. But what I've been doing is actually I've been reading until I know where it actually ends in certain episodes, and then I've been watching an episode.
I love that.
It's such an enjoyable process of like there's so many more details that I now notice in the film or in the TV show that it just like plays off really nicely with the book, and I'm really it's a good time. So for those that aren't familiar with Jilly Cooper or specifically Rivals, so Jilly Cooper wrote this series called the Rutcher series, I think.
Okay.
Something. And I think there's I can't even count how many books there is in this series, but it's all around 1970s to I think the 1990s British culture. The first book was Riders, and that focused on the show jumping world and making it up to the LA Olympics in '84. Mm-hmm. Rivals is about a basically TV franchise in Britain in the 1980s, and it's just a good time. It's just so much fun.
It's just a good time. Yeah,
it's just really fun. But then the other book that I've been reading is Depraved, the story of dangerous art.
I bought it as well in Oxford. I absolutely. I'm desperate to dive into it.
So what I find really interesting about this is that there was a book that I read was it in undergrad? It might have been. But anyway, there was an author once upon a time on Twitter who had published this book, and I'm pretty sure it was called Untouchable.
Oh.
But it was about this really like truly awful character in history. It was Victorian England, and he has a very like depraved reputation for his treatment of young boys and girls. And I actually had analyzed that the framework or the kind of theory of analyzing depraved characters in history through the framework that this writer had offered in applying it to the history of slavery.
Amazing.
And so it was looking at I was talking primarily about Thomas Jefferson and the Hemings family and Sally Hemings. I also talked about this really infamous planter in Barbados who did some terrible things and wrote them all down.
At least he wrote them down.
He did write them down. And I'm getting a very similar kind of framing to the Daisy Dixon, which I really appreciate. I will also say that her writing, like, I'm going to be using this as like a template for how to actually structure very clear writing, because the way she presents the descriptions of depravity and art, I just thought were so well done.
Oh, I love that.
And the kind of framing and the theory around, how do we engage with depraved art, depraved artists, and the kind of 5 categories that she goes over in the book. I was just like, oh, this is signposting at its best. This is
so quintessential,
beautiful.
Oh,
and I love a really clear thesis.
Really clear, yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. It is incredibly well written. I'm taking my time with it. I don't have much more to say, but other than I do think that this is something that people should read, because it engages with, how do we talk about artists who depict, scenes of violence, who, commit violence, and how do we talk about them, their work, and engage with it in a way that is critical and expansive. And
I think it's so important. I was talking about this. Was I talking about this with you? Yes, we were. We were talking about the whole like cancel culture thing. I think this is so. Yeah.
That's another episode.
It's another episode, but I was thinking this is so fascinating to talk about the way that she's done this in terms of thinking about it critically, rather than just going towards like full-blown cancel culture. I just think that's so fascinating. I'm very excited. That needs to be another episode, definitely.
I added
cancel culture.
Added it to our notes. We're ready to go. Okay, so what's your thought of the week?
Oh, my thought of the week. My thought of the week has actually kind of come off the back of our writing retreat and the peer review session that we did in the writing retreat, because, and this kind of ties into our next bit, but my thought of the week is on signposting and setting out clear arguments. And the reason it's kind of come into my head is because one of our accepted members, Laura, who has just attended the T.S. Eliot summer school that I attended a couple of years ago. And her and I were talking about some of the presenters. And one of the presenters that was there for her session, was also there for my session, is this guy called Jamie. And I'll find all of his details and we can add it in below, because I can't remember now off the top of my head. But he did this presentation that to this day I will never forget, because it's the first presentation that I've been able to sit through and follow the argument from beginning all the way to the end. And that was something that just like kind of blew my mind open, because usually when people are giving presentations, you kind of like, you flit in and out, and you kind of, especially academic presentations, you don't always like follow through 120%. And Jamie's presentation really stood out to me because I could follow it on a topic that I had no idea about from beginning to end. And the way he did that was with signposting. And it was something that I noticed in your presentation as well. It's like this, like being able to like flow, the argument flowing so clearly from beginning to end. So this is something that I'm sitting with at the moment as I'm writing my methodology section for my dissertation. And this is kind of how it ties into the next section, because literally I just wrote down on a piece of paper, I want to hit this point. This is the point I want to make. This is where it moves to next. And it's this big, long, linear, like flow chart. And I was like, great, now I can put that into words. What is your thought?
So yesterday, I went with my partner to the Maritime Museum over in Greenwich for the first time. And we just like took the day to just spend some time together after having been away for quite some time. And we were walking through the section on the Atlantic, which was obviously going to be the point of interest. He was more interested in the section on the Pacific. Once we got to the Atlantic, I was like, okay, this is where I belong.
This is me, yeah.
And it was quite fascinating to me that they cover a lot on the transatlantic slave trade, and I was analyzing how it is that how they're placing it, what information's being shown, how it's being represented, and all of that. And I got to this section which was talking about like servants who served in the Navy. And I was looking. They had this one basically advertisement, recruiting advertisement from I think the 1730s.
Okay.
And so I'm like up against the glass with my hands cupped over my eyes so that I can actually read it. And I'm reading through this pamphlet, and it was so fascinating because I read a lot of the recruiting material for the Virginia Company in the early 17th century, in like the 1620 period. And in those documents under the Virginia Company, they specifically talk about that, going to Virginia is basically like fulfilling your knightly duty to the crown. Like you are fulfilling this, this very strong
patriotic
mandate.
Yeah.
But actually, so what's interesting to me is I in these recruiting documents from the 1730s, they don't really mention the crown. It's all about nation and Britain.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I keep thinking about it, and I keep thinking about the role of the Restoration and the Interregnum in changing the patriotic identity that someone holds and their connections to either the monarch or to the nation. And I'm so curious, and now I really want to go and look at like all of this kind of recruiting material to the Americas and to the Navy and whatnot. And I'm like, that's an entire dissertation in and of itself. I can't explore that right now, but I was proud of myself because I brought my little pocket notebook with me.
Yes.
And I sat on the floor in the middle of this museum and started scribbling down all of the ideas that had come to mind. And my partner comes over and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Shut up, I have an idea."
Don't talk to me, I'm busy.
I'm like, I gotta get this down.
I love that so much.
Because I was thinking about how one, identifies as, as a subject or as a citizen, and that's very fascinating, especially in the late 18th century. But I was like seeing that in the early 18th century and the 1730s was fascinating. So anyway, that's my thought of the day. Patriotic identity.
I think it's so interesting. I'm just thinking now about like you know, this idea of the identity being of patriotic identity and how it was formulated, because it's such a distinct shift that happens in Britain at this time, and sort of the move away from Elizabeth into James and what that means for Britain as a country. Oh, yeah, no, that is a research rabbit hole in and of itself. Fascinating.
Yeah, I was so just like, ideas were just pinging, and I was like, oh, this is what it means to be a historian. This is so cool.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I ran up to my partner. I was like, well, this is what this means, and he's like,
it's great, darling.
I'm glad that you get this out of going to a museum. And like, this is why I really like this podcast and having these opportunities to have these chats, because had I not read the Virginia Company papers, had I not spent time, really analyzing them for my own research, that recruitment document might not have provided. I wouldn't have had any, further context by which to engage with it. And I will make one point, and then we will move on, because we have now spent 30 minutes on the on the weekly digest.
Welcome.
Going on tangents, but I was also thinking about this insofar as why people struggle to engage with art when they first encounter a museum, because the initial kind of reaction is whether or not we believe something to be pleasurable, like, is it an enjoyable thing to look at, versus when you have more context, when you have more threads by which to understand a piece of art, then suddenly you really have something to kind of chew over and intellectualize with. And anyway, we could also do an episode on how to look at a piece of art.
my brain is just pinging to like the fact that people have such an issue with James Joyce's Ulysses, where they're like, oh, it's such rubbish. And
did you see Adam's video?
Yes, I did. And this is the reason why I love Ulysses, is because it is meant to be read like with other texts and like in chewed over in that way. And that's what I love about literature. It's what I love about art. It's the intertextuality of things and the interdisciplinarity of things. That is where it's what gets what gives me the shivers, gives me the shakes. I love it.
Okay, I'm fab.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite for this week?
My favorite for this week, this is so random, but it is going to be my little mini journal. But it's because I did a wee update of it. So I got this little wallet insert. So this is now my wallet, which has all my cards and things like that. But off the back of Sophia's vision board, I created my own little one. And
that's fabulous.
I've kept it in my little wallet, and so this is now my favorite thing in the entire world, and I love it so much. So
it's so funny because when she presented that vision board, I remembered that I actually made one and I hadn't looked at it.
Did you?
Yeah, I had it in my pocket journal, and I hadn't looked at it.
Yeah.
And what's so wild is I went and looked at it when I got home. Oh, I'm not gonna get teary-eyed.
No.
But I had all these images of like women studying together. Aww. And like the Duke Humphreys Library, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like what my year has looked like. That's beautiful.
It's what it looks like. I love that so much. So this has kind of been my favorite. It's also got at the back here, I wrote a little card to myself at the beginning of 2026 that I'd forgotten about. And yeah, so I just keep that in there. But isn't that amazing? I just love that so much.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Mine seems so frivolous now.
No. Look, mine was retinol in the last one, so I think we're okay.
So there's this perfume company, this natural perfume company,
ooh,
called Fern,
I love Fern. Love Fern.
Yeah, so I discovered them like 2 years ago, and I actually had a subscription for I think a whole year. So I have bottles from 2024.
Yeah.
But I decided to cancel the subscription because for one, um, I most of the time the scents aren't quite the right fit for me, but I'm also
Yeah.
really bad at returning things. So even if I sample it and it's not quite right for me, I can't bring myself to return it.
That's fair.
So I decided to cancel, and then the Instagram ads got me, guys. Okay.
It happens to the best of us.
It happens to the best of us. And you know what? I sat on it for a couple weeks. I was like, maybe I'll think about it. But they had this like peach and bergamot
Oh.
scent. And I
Is
was
this like the summer scent that they
yeah,
just
so
released? Yes.
this is the summer 26. And I've been wearing it, and it's just, oh, it's so beautiful.
I love that so much.
And it's not terribly bergamoty. So I would say it's more, so you have a much like warmer palette when it comes to scents. I prefer like much more kind of florally,
Yes.
very jasmine forward scents and rose scents. And this one is very like juicy.
I like that. Yeah. I've heard good things about it, if I'm honest. Like,
I have had a very positive experience.
I never actually, I have a problem with like buying something that I haven't tested first. So scents in particular, I find very difficult.
They do have a storefront now in London.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah. So
that's maybe worth checking out.
So the next time you're in London, we can do a little girly trip over to
do a little shop. Oh, I love that.
But yeah, I love. It's also because it's a natural scent. It doesn't last on your skin for quite as long. Yeah. So a couple of times throughout the day, I'll just like do a little spritz on my
do a little spritz on you,
and then I just have this nice little scent between typing on my computer,
typing away. I love that so much.
So
it's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
All right.
I love it.
All right. Now it is time to move into the next section, which is the goal of the week. So, Kate, what's the focus? What are we working on?
I'm working on my methodology section. I had a phenomenal day on Tuesday where I just wrote and it flowed. It was like 4 hours of pure research elixir. It felt so good. I was so happy. I haven't reread what I wrote because I was just dumping. It was just all going in there. But I think I've almost gotten my methodology section down, which
that's exciting.
I'm so happy about. Oh, it makes me feel so good. It makes me feel like now I can dive into the actual case studies of the villainous woman of the Fairy Queen. And it was just this moment of like, now that I have the language to describe what I'm doing, it made me feel like a real researcher, like a real PhD student. It felt really good. So yeah, the goal of this week is to finalize that section, which I think I will hopefully get done by the end of the week. But yes, that's my goal of the week. What's your goal of the week?
To be honest, this week is really just about trying to rest and preserve and like just kind of get things back on track. I said this to you before the recording, but I've been sitting with the decision to go on sabbatical. I knew it was coming. You and I decided this at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. And when I was in Oxford, I kind of admitted that it needed to come sooner than originally planned.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I'm at the cusp of I need to film the video. I need to make the announcement properly. And it's not that I feel anxious to do it. It's that like letting it go.
Yeah.
That is I'm finding that a little bit challenging mentally, but also the weight of not having done it is also just taking up so much energy.
Yeah.
And whenever I feel like that sense of burnout, I can always tell that something's off. Like I need to address something. I need to let something go. And I know what I need to let go. I need to make the announcement and I need to just go on my sabbatical And
draw a line in the sand.
Yeah. And I was even looking at my calendar for next week, and it was just so nice to just see like every day is just the dissertation.
Just the dissertation.
And I am really looking forward to the sabbatical. But at the moment I just need to get the announcements out. I need to get over that hurdle, and then next week I can set some like real proper goals for the dissertation, because at the moment it's not that it's on the back burner, it's just that whenever I go to the dissertation I feel like it's holding so much weight and so much expectation that I just need space for it to
just breathe a bit, right?
Yeah.
I'm super duper proud of you for taking this step. It's so good. It's so necessary. It's something I wish that I did last year. And yeah, just super duper proud of you. And it's going to be great.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to the video being done.
Yes.
I'm not really looking forward to filming it, but yeah, I think it'll be good. And once the plan is to have that out by Monday, so that I can breathe. But it's now time to get to the actual meat and potatoes of the episode, which is that we are going to head on into the seminar, and we'll be back after a short break. And we're back with this week's seminar topic, which is that the future of education might not be the university. So when we first talked about doing these episodes, or doing this episode, we originally had a plan to do something else, but I reached out to you and said, I think we should recap the symposium and some of the lessons that we discussed and whatnot. So I think many people that are going to listen to this podcast have probably attended the symposium, but what they don't know is the conversations that happened beforehand, the conversations you and I were having at night. And I think that it also helps us tie in some of the Substack articles that you and I wrote in the weeks leading up to the symposium, and how that was really formative in the way that we approached. So yeah, I guess, Cait, like
a little behind the scenes.
Yeah,
right?
like, you know, like what was the context from your point of view leading up to the symposium? And yeah, just fire away.
Well, I you know this obviously, but I don't think our listeners would know this. Last year's symposium was such a I don't even know if I want to say traumatic, because
I think it was just a catalyst.
It was just, you know what, it was the last straw on the camel's back. Last year I was writing my master's dissertation. I was submitting reports because I was still in my job. I was submitting reports to the European Commission at Google. I was planning the symposium, and it all just kind of culminated in a just absolute mess of stress and burnout that I was experiencing at the time. And it all just kind of came to a head at the symposium last year. And even though it was a phenomenal event and everyone really got a lot out of it, I left that symposium just feeling so defeated and so not burnt out isn't even the right thing, because I feel like I was burnt out like 6 months before, but just, you know, just completely drained of everything, and it was awful. I felt so terrible. And so I came into preparing for the symposium with a almost fear that it was going to be similar, and a fear that I wasn't going to be able to give it what it deserved, and be what it needed to be. So leading up to the symposium was a really it's a really stressful time. Also, this year has been really, really stressful. There's been a lot of things that have been happening in the background in terms of the business with Accepted and you know, managing that has been huge weights that are now lifted, thank God. But yeah, it was just a really a really stressful and emotional time for me going into the symposium. Organizing these events are never just easy, and a lot of people don't see the back and forths that we have with venues, and the back and forths that we have with suppliers and that kind of thing, which is good. They shouldn't see that, obviously. That's not what the whole thing is about. But yeah, I just kind of came into the weeks preceding the symposium just feeling so stressed and so terrified, honestly, like just so scared. And you and I got onto a call, and it was just, we were prepping, we'd done all the sort of lead up to it, all the admin to it, and I just remember being like, I'm so scared, I'm so scared. I'm trying really hard not to cry. That's okay. Yeah, just being absolutely terrified of failing the community, not giving them what they deserve, and failing myself in that way. But I mean, ultimately, it just came to be such an incredible event.
I think the conversation that you and I had was also really important.
It was so important. It was so important. It was such a catalyst for me, that conversation, because ultimately it just kind of came down to me realizing that people probably will figure this out about me, is that whenever I get overwhelmed or stressed or scared, I retreat into myself and I don't ask for help. I'm not good at it, not my forte. And I'd retreated from the community. I pulled myself out of the community. I thought that I had to exist in a plane where I did everything in the background and the community couldn't help me. But then you and I had this conversation, and you spoke about how you felt so similar when in 2024, when we relaunched Accepted, and how the symposium was such a moment for you, because you realized what the benefit to the community was and how it could support you. And just having that kind of realization, it wasn't sort of cataclysmic and sort of it happened straight away, and it was but it was a whole lot of little things. We've kind of spoken about this, it's a whole lot of little things that just started to click into place and started to feel better for it. What did that feel like for you?
So I think what was really important about the conversations leading up to the symposium is that you were in a space where you weren't feeling like engaged in the community, and we're struggling a lot more than I've seen you struggle in our friendship, in the several years that I've known you.
Finn. Jesus. I'm going to close my door. One moment.
Thank you.
There we go.
And part of the disconnect that I think that we kind of had going into the symposium was also just like not knowing where Accepted was going.
No, yeah.
Because it's had so many iterations. And I talked about this in the opening for the symposium, and for anybody that wants to watch the recordings, we have them available, and I'll put them in the description. But in the opening, I talked about how, at first, like, this was really just a study space. It was just about accountability. And 2024 was when it really became a community in my eyes. That's when I really felt like, no, this is really about belonging. This is about caring for one another. This is about creating a space where we all have to show up for each other and for ourselves.
Yeah.
But in the last year, there's been so much discourse around the future of education. And, you know, you and I have had a lot of discussions. We've written on Substack and whatnot about the role of the emerging scholar in the future of academia.
Yeah.
Whether universities can really provide the opportunity and the space that it originally did. And by space, I mean really a space for like intellectual curiosity and belonging. It's, you know, a lot of people return to school because they really love the experience. They enjoy the community. They enjoy the questions, the exercise of intellectual pursuit. And what you and I kind of realized over the last 6 or so months was that that's not something that just happens at universities. And if anything, like universities are struggling to serve that purpose.
So true. Yeah.
And when we had that conversation, what clicked for me was that, you know, the decision to proceed with my PhD, it wasn't just about the degree, because the conversation that sparked my like that reminder of like why I did this in the first place was listening to Lainey. So in 2024, Lainey, who's one of the original members of Accepted, was on this panel talking about, you know, non-traditional and independent research. And she works in construction, and she does research as a historian just because she loves it.
Yeah.
And hearing her talk about her work and hearing her talk about the conversation that actually led her to pursue her work, which is a conversation that her and I had back in 2021. I was like, that's why I did this. Like, I did this because I have questions, and it's not just because I love history, it's because I really care about the research process, and I have so many things that I want to know and explore. And when you and I had that conversation the days leading up to the symposium, and I was in an attempt to kind of help offer a little bit of context for you, in recounting the symposium, I realized like, oh, like it's not about the PhD so much as it was about this kind of rejection of my intellectual self over that period. And that the symposium was this kind of catalyst for me realizing, no, that's something I really need. That's something I need to start nurturing. That's something I need to invest in. And we kind of realized that, you know, maybe the focus isn't academics anymore. Maybe it isn't students. Maybe the people we actually best serve and the people that get the most out of Accepted are those who are invested in the lifelong pursuit of learning.
Yeah. I mean, it's the reason that I came back into university is this whole idea of, and I remember it so distinctly, sitting in my living room. I just finished up a day of work. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time doing something that I'm not passionate about, that I don't actually enjoy doing. I'm not bad at my job. I'm good at my job. You know, I'm very good at my job. But I was just like, this isn't me. This isn't my worth. This isn't my value. And where I feel myself come alive, and where I feel myself actually feel the most like who I am deep down, is when I am doing my research, is when I am talking about my academics, is when I'm talking about what I'm doing. And I think it's I think we have this conception that, like, you can only achieve that in universities. And that's not the case. That's definitely not the case, because
not anymore.
Obviously, there are still benefits to academic institutions, particularly if you're looking at, like, what I did, which was essentially pivot completely 180 from what I was doing to a whole new area of expertise.
Yeah.
But that doesn't resonate with the core of it. And the core of it is that pursuit of learning, that love of learning, which should extend beyond any academic institution. It's the reason I feel like so many people have jumped on personal curriculums. I think it's the reason so many people are having this resurgence of, to be fair, like an analog movement, is because they are craving something that is so much more formative than a formula structure.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I really tried to encapsulate in my keynote, which was this idea of, you have the power to choose the pathway that that you want. Is that in an academic institution? Great. Is it as an independent researcher? Great. Are you incorporating that core piece of wanting to learn continuously questioning yourself, continuously having these questions? You embody this so well with this idea of, like, oh, I went to a museum, I had all these questions. I can't pursue them now, but I will pursue them in the future. That's the kind of thing that I think we kind of had this clarifying moment of what it means to be a part of a community that seeks that pursues that with their absolute being. And that just felt so good to kind of come to realize, because when you get bogged down, as I so often do, with the admin, the finances, all of the really non-sexy things about running a business, you forget that. You don't see it until you have these kind of moments. And the symposium and the week leading up to the symposium was really one of those moments where I was like, all of that stuff really doesn't matter, because at the core of it, it actually comes down to, I haven't felt more like a researcher than I have in the last 2 weeks. Just because that's where I'm putting my energy. That's where I'm putting my focus. And I've chosen to do that, rather than choosing to put my time and energy into things that don't serve me. That was a tangent, but
no. I think it's a helpful one, because I hadn't reflected on it earlier, but when we did the writers' retreat, and I remember we were in the Duke Humphreys, and I was just like in the 1705 laws, and what I think that kind of shift did for me was make me think about, like, I really love the process of historical research. Like, that's why I got into this. I have so many questions. I'm so curious. And, at the end of this PhD, I'll have a fully written dissertation. I'll have that diploma from a university, and that's all good and well. I'm not discrediting that. But, like, it actually, like, it's the thing that actually matters the least.
Matters the least.
And it was during the writers' retreat. I was talking about, and I said, I think it was on the first day, that I had this project that I worked on in undergrad, my undergraduate thesis, and I built out this database, and I was, like, typing up each individual name, location, description, and creating this really elaborate database with absolutely no knowledge of how to build a database. And I was just so immersed in the process. And I felt so in touch with the subjects that I was seeing in the archive. And I remember saying to everyone, I was like, I don't remember, like, I think that was the last time I felt that way. And I was like, that's really sad that I'm, you know, I'm 6 years into a PhD, and like that felt like the last time that I really felt like so immersed and connected in the research. I remember I stayed up all night working on that database.
I'm curious because I adore it when you talk about your research. I think it's the most incredible thing. Like, I know I found you through YouTube. Great. Right now, I don't even care about it. I'm like, I just want to hear, I love you to death. Just want to hear more about the research, because I'm curious about that, because when you spoke about creating that database in the writer's retreat, I remember looking over at you and just seeing like your entire physique shift. And it was so amazing to see. It was so amazing to see you just kind of come alive with it, because I know you've had reservations about talking about your research.
Yes.
And reservations being a light word, you know, but it was just so amazing to me to then see you present on your research at the end of the writer's retreat, because as I said in the beginning, it was just one of those moments where I was like, look at all the cool work that you've put into this. It's so fascinating. It's so exciting. It's the book that, you know, it's the book that I would pick up at Blackwell's and be like, this is interesting. I want to read this, even though it's not my area of expertise at all. And it just made me realize there was this moment of like, did we, I haven't prefaced this, so I might be jumping down a complete rabbit hole. We can edit it out if we decide to.
Oh God, here we go.
I know. I'm just like, I'm going to cause chaos here. Have you and I been performative?
Oh yeah.
And in this idea of like, because I don't like talking about my research. The first time I spoke about it was on the Talking Tutors podcast with Natalie, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified about getting anything wrong. I spent 3 days prepping for that podcast because I was like, I don't want to get anything wrong here. This is the first time I'm talking about my research. I want to make sure I know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. And yet, that's what's interesting. That's the core of it. You know, it's almost like we've danced around it in our content, and we haven't actually we haven't actually talked about that thing that makes both of us light up.
Yeah. I don't think performative is the right word. I think there is a degree of performance to social media in general. Like, it's just, I think that's the medium. I think it's guarded.
Yeah.
Guarded, it feels more like the word to describe it. And I suppose there's, to an extent, I think there's a professionalized reason for it. And this is where I think the university, you can go, I'm going to argue both on both sides. So on the one hand, the professionalization of a PhD student basically says, don't share your research, you know, publicly. Don't share it with your colleagues. Basically, don't share it with anybody but your advisor, unless it's in a very controlled setting where you have copyright. There's, you know, there's an assurance that nobody's going to share this work. And that is based on a concern over the protection of your intellectual property. So I think that on the one hand, that's valid, and I understand why the academy and why publishers have those standards. On the other hand, what I've found, especially in running Educated Social and training academics on social media, personal branding, marketing, etc., is that we have almost gone so far in that direction that we don't actually know how to speak about our work in public. You know, whether that's to a friend, whether that the fact that, you know, for example, you and I talk about, generally speaking, we talk about our work together.
Yeah.
But you know, reading your drafts is the first time I encounter a lot of your analysis.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time together.
We spent a lot of time together, and there were elements of your research that I had no idea about. Just like none.
Like
Obviously, I'd heard like snippets of it, but I just had no idea how they all connected together. And it just kind of was a little bit of a slap in the face for me. Of like, we should be able to talk about this. We should be able to talk about the progression of our research. It's and that was what the symposium was.
Yeah.
Created for initially. It was created as that safe space to share this research and to share what we're working on without that fear, that you know, restriction that we get so kind of caught up in. And it just made me realize that in some ways we've kind of the symposium started out 5 years ago as just presenting your research.
Yeah.
And it's almost come into like a beautiful full circle moment where I feel like it came back to that a little bit this year.
Yeah.
Where it was again that safe space, but it's enabling research in a way that doesn't fulfill, or no, that's the wrong word. It's enabling research in a way that isn't ring-fenced by an academic institution.
Yes. I actually was thinking about this, and this is obviously a conversation we're going to have to take offline. But I was thinking about, you know, we were doing these quarterly town halls.
Yeah.
What if we did like a quarterly, you know, 3-minute thesis style presentations for people to share their works in progress? Because this year in particular felt like, one, everybody was like so snappy. They were so on it.
Oh my gosh. I've never seen such incredible presentations. My mind was blown.
It was so amazing. Fantastic. But also,
first time we haven't run over either on the 3 minutes.
They were really on top of it. But also the questions, you know, the people in the room saying, I have this resource for you. Let's talk offline. Let's do this. Yeah. Like, I think opening up a space where people can talk about the things that they're learning and having to synthesize it then creates those connections. It creates the, you know, those additional opportunities. And that's what I see in the brainstorm and write sessions. But I do think that there is something to that. And
absolutely.
I do think having a bit of an event where we do celebrate that, even if we're just doing it online, would be really special.
I think so too. Because I keep coming back to, funny enough, one of our members, Jacqueline, she's about to finish her master's or her PhD. I can't remember exactly now, but she's been in my writing sessions from the beginning, like 3 years or so ago. I can't actually remember, but the other day she came into a writing session and she said she's writing her last chapter of and I got emotional. I genuinely got so emotional because I was like, this is amazing. You've been doing this for it must be a PhD. You've been doing this for years, and it's now coming into this full circle moment. And she would reflect on like what each chapter was about, so you kind of got a sense of like that progression. But just to kind of be there, to see it all come together, to witness that. I mean, that is something I don't think we give enough credit to, is witnessing someone's journey and witnessing the progress. I mean, we talk about the idea of loving the process of research, and I think that's why 90% of us do this, is for that process. That's what drives us, that the element of curiosity, the element of discovery, that friction of learning is so embedded in who we are as people. But we don't give enough credit to actually witnessing that process. Yeah. To witnessing those moments, those seemingly insignificant moments, because ultimately they all add up into this really beautiful culmination of the effort that you've put in. to
Yeah.
get to where you are. And that's why, like, at the end of the day, the degree, the piece of paper, whatever, it doesn't matter, because
No.
it's a
I
culmination of those special moments.
I had this thought yesterday because I had a one-on-one with Masha, who's one of the students that I'm working from the researchers course. And I knew about her research because I helped her with her applications to Oxford last year. So I've read the proposal, so I knew where we were headed. And she was having trouble kind of organizing and synthesizing what she was seeing in this text by, I think it's Francis Bacon. And we pulled up. I was like, okay, I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna go on Milano, and I was like, just riff at me.
Yeah.
Just talk to me what you're thinking. And so I'm like organizing all of her thoughts as we're going, and I'm like putting them into cards and organizing it into this outline. And I love doing that for people. I've done it for Katie, and I love a mind map. I also really love helping somebody else like bring their ideas and help kind of organize it and summarize it. And I was thinking about the act of mentorship, because she didn't need that much steering. Like, other than, I asked a few questions and I was like, can you clarify this? What do you mean by that? How does this connect to that?
Yeah.
She didn't need much like training, as much as she just needed somebody there with her that could help kind of organize her thoughts. And I was thinking about
those ideas off of, right?
Yeah. And so what came up for me is that, like, why did all of us want a career in academia? Why did we want to become professors?
It was to help people, right? It was to teach. Oh, at least that was for me.
I think it depends. I think some it's to teach, and some it's because it's the research, it's the space, it's the environment that really attracts them. But the thing that you and I always have said from the very beginning is that the reason we wanted a career in education was because we love teaching.
Yeah.
Because we love the mentorship element. And that's kind of where the thread of maybe academia is actually not the best place for that kind of engagement, because I think a lot about advisor, supervisor, student relationships. And I've had some absolutely phenomenal advisors, like truly some of the best scholars in the field. And those that have really pushed me really hard to become a better scholar. I would not be here. I would not be the researcher I am had it not been for them. And my dissertation has definitely just evolved so much by having such an incredible coupling of a committee.
Yeah.
But so many people didn't get that. They didn't have somebody that took the time, that sat with them, that organized their thoughts, that said, this isn't good enough. Here's how to fix it. Here is what you need to do. Here are the steps. Like, I see potential in you. And so I'm going to put the energy in, and I'm going to make sure that you have the support that you need, because it's a structural issue. I'm not solely blaming the individual educators, because they don't have the capacity. They're not paid adequately. They're not supported by their departments enough. And they aren't also given the training to be good mentors.
I think this is actually something that really bothers me. Is I was talking to a friend of mine recently who is doing a part-time course, and she was saying it's very frustrating because they're meant to do this essay, and but they're not given office hours. They're not given an opportunity to meet with their professors to discuss their essays ahead of time. And it just kind of blew my mind. And she kind of sat there. She was like, it's not their fault. The reason they're not offering office hours is because they're not being paid to offer office hours. Yeah. And you can't just offer that labor freely. It's not something that the institutions will allow. is, you know, that you offer that labor freely. It's a safeguard, as well as, you know, just that ring fence structure that we were talking about. And it just kind of sat with me, because in the same way, I think the wonderful thing that we've developed in this community is, I was really struggling with this when I sat down in Oxford, first day of the writing retreat, when we went to the rad camp. We went to the upper part of the rad camp. I sat next to Christy, and I said to her, you know, how did you do your methodology? She's a literature student, I'm a literature student. You know, how did you do your methodology section? And she said to me, she was like, well, tell me what yours is. Like, tell me what you're doing. And it was exactly the same thing as you and Masha. She was like, let's break it down. She was like, I don't think what you're talking about is a methodology section. I think what you're talking about is like theoretical thresholds. I was like, thank you. Knew that. But, you know, just having these kind of like clarifying moments of like, you know, it's that discourse. This is what we were talking about right at the beginning, the first episode we were talking about, which is that friction of learning.
Yeah.
You can't do it alone.
No.
You need friction. You know, you can't create fire from one stick.
No. And I learned that when I wanted to quit my PhD.
Yeah. Because
I hadn't been engaging in the community. I couldn't really talk about my research. I felt so stuck. And what was interesting is that I remember that evening I was with you and Polly asked me about the dissertation. She asked me to describe it. And I realized it's the first time in like 6 months that somebody had asked
about it, right?
And I was like, on the one hand, like, that's a shame that nobody's asked, but at the same time, like, have I created a space where, you know, somebody doesn't, you know, feel comfortable to ask? And do we not create spaces whereby, like, just the clumsy mess of trying to describe what you're learning, like, where that can exist? And that's in a way, I like that. That's what I think accepted could be. That's what I think
absolutely
places like Substack can be.
Yes.
This is what I think, you know, I look at, you know, Adam Walker and Verse and the other communities that people are creating, you know, even just book clubs. And the thing that I find frustrating, and the part that I want people to grasp and to take away from this conversation is, I think we go to the university because it demands attendance, it demands attention, it demands
rigor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And an intellectual community demands that you step into the ring. You have to be the one to step forward, to ask the question, to ask somebody like, please, can I talk to you about my research? And can you ask me some questions? And open yourself up in such a way, because, you know, that structure, especially if you think about Socratic method and seminars, you know, somebody else is creating it for you, and you have to step in the ring because you've just paid to be there.
Yeah.
But whether it's with your friends, whether that's in your book club, like, don't be a bystander. And, you know, I said this in my talk when it comes to, you know, share the process, share what you're learning online.
Yeah.
But it should also be shared with, like, your friend, your partner, your family member. You know, I think we need to get more practiced at speaking about what we're learning. And essentially, like, call other people up to the plate.
Absolutely. Bring other people up with you. Like, there is, you know, as I said right at the beginning, like, I'm not good at offering myself up. Like, if someone asks me the question, yes, I'll talk about it. But that's something that I need to overcome. That's something that I need to say, actually, you know what? I'm going to sit here for the next 15 minutes and I'm just going to, like, talk at you about what I'm doing, because I need to verbalize it, because I need it to come out. Because research does not, and in the same way that we look at our research as the subjects of our research, and we say, this does not happen in isolation.
Yes.
us as researchers do not exist in isolation. We exist for the experiences that we have. And we talk about this so much in our research sessions and our writing sessions. The idea that as researchers, we are informed by our experiences. We're informed by what we read, what we write, what we think. A big part of that is having these conversations.
Yeah.
Stepping up to the plate, saying, I need to talk about this, or I need to, I need to verbalize it. I need to figure it out. That's what I really love about Christy, and why I think she was such a phenomenal recipient of like the Golden Scholar Award, is because she does that. Yes. She's so open with the community about like what she is going through, not just in her research, but in her personal life. Yeah. She really steps herself up to the plate, and I love to see this. So inspirational to see it. And it's certainly stuck with me that, oh, actually, I need to be a bit more like her. Like, yeah, I need to be in the community, not just existing at a sort of at an external level. Like, it needs to be a fundamental part of it. And it's the things like the 5 a.m. club that I used to run. Like, I don't run them anymore because I'm not working anymore. But actually, those were the most productive times that I've ever been in my research. And I was like, well, why not still run them? Because now that I don't have to work, I can nap for 3 hours in the afternoon if I so choose.
Yeah.
Big tangent.
No, I think that's, I say this all the time, like, in order to be in the community, like, you have to step in and be a good villager. And being a good villager, by the way, is not just offering support to others. It's also offering up the opportunity for others to support you.
Support you. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why I don't feel as afraid to go on sabbatical. Like, I was talking about, like, the concern, like, somebody was like, well, are you worried that you're not going to have like a creative outlet? You're not going to have your community? And I was like, I think on the one hand, I do think it's going to be a little bit weird to not have the same creative outlet. And I was like, but I'm actually really curious about what's going to come up.
What's going to come from
it. When I shut down the need for there to be to put forward the creativity to be a spectacle, what comes up. And so I'm going to, create a practice of adding those notes, adding those ideas, adding those things that come up into my journal. And what was funny to me is that they said, are you worried about not having your community? And I was like, well, I love the people that are on, obviously, that watch my YouTube videos, but and I don't mean this to sound harsh, but that it's not really a community because I don't know them.
Yeah.
Like, it's entirely parasocial, and we don't show up for each other in the way that we do in a genuine community where I see you, I see what you're going through, I hear what you have to say, and I'm also offering up the same. I'm also, opening myself up and being vulnerable. And also, vulnerability is not just sharing the bad stuff. It's also being willing to actually be proud of and proud of your achievements, big and small, and being able to say, like, this is deserving of celebration by myself and by others. Yeah. And I really took that away from the writers' retreat, because Jo had said that she really struggles with feeling proud of herself. And I was thinking about, in the community, how people do create that space for celebration, and I want to see more of it. I want to see people feel like it is a safe space to be proud of their achievements. And the university at the moment doesn't do that to the same extent. And that's why I feel there's
this idea of competition, doesn't it? Like,
it does.
It thrives on that commercialized idea of competition. Like, oh, one person puts out 5 articles, another person puts out 4 articles. Well, the person with 5 articles is definitely more likely to get a job than the person with 4 articles. And it's just rubbish. It's just rubbish. I'm sorry. I have a very strong opinion about that.
No, I mean, we have the same opinion. I just think that, you know, as we said in our Substack articles, which I'll also link, because I think it's worth reading, because both of us had, I think, rather important takes. I'll also link Karina's, because I responded to yours and Karina's at the same time. Is that it's not giving up on the university. It's saying that the university has to evolve.
Yes.
Because if it continues to operate as a commercial entity,
it's not going to
foster intellectual curiosity, and it's not going to be a space where people feel safe to pursue their ideas to their fullest. And I just think that we have to, as the title of your talk says, like, I think we have to think about the radical possibilities of an evolved way of education, rather than just thinking about the old guard pillars that have upheld it to this point.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And it feels like it feels like, even in saying that, it feels like even in acknowledging that, like, there are benefits to academic institutions, sure, but it's not the only way.
It's not the only way.
It's not the only way. There are so many ways in which we could revolutionize what this looks like for people. And just saying that in and of itself is a radical step, because that is not something that is being purported. And one thing I really have an issue with at the moment in the discourse of the failings of academia, and what I really wanted to put in my article is, yes, there are failings in academia. There are failings in academic institutions. There have been failings in academic institutions for the last 100 years since they adopted a commercialized attitude. But there's hope. And I wanted to really try and get that through in the article, in the keynote, in the whole idea of rewriting the narrative of the symposium, is that it is a dark place, but there is hope. There is possibilities.
Yeah.
And in those hopes and in those possibilities, we can exist and we can thrive.
Yeah.
Does not have to be all doom and gloom.
Well, I feel like we've nailed it. Yeah, I just think that perspective has also offered me so much solace in thinking about what you and I had we went to dinner and we had this conversation about what life beyond the PhD is going to look like. And I was like, I just don't see it being that different. You know, no. I see myself continuing to do research. I see myself turning the dissertation and my other ideas into books.
Yeah.
But I see trying to, create a space through Accepted that can nurture my lifelong learning, your lifelong learning, and anybody else that genuinely wants to invest in their intellectual well-being.
And I love that. That's where it is. That's what the space is.
So I think that officially concludes the seminar. Here is where we normally would have our letterbox, where we answer questions from our audience. But since we are a very new podcast and we just started, we don't have any questions yet. So leave us a comment on Substack, or go ahead and send us an email at admin@acceptedsociety.com. And we will include it in an upcoming episode. So thank you, Cait. Thank you, audience. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.